What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tom Foolery. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about the Miami Heat's Game 7 victory over the Boston Celtics, which catapulted them into the NBA Finals and set them up with a matchup against the Denver Nuggets. This series in particular was all over the place. You have Miami go out to a 3-0 lead. You have Boston win 3 games in a row to force a game 7 at home in Boston, and then they just collapsed. I've never seen anything like this before. I think all the other times that a team had forced a game 7 after being down 3-0 had occurred either before I was born or when I was super young. Like, I know there was one in 1994 with the Nuggets and somebody else, and then there was another occurrence in 2003. But just a quick disclaimer, I haven't made a video in about 2 weeks. I haven't talked about the conference finals really anywhere, and no other reason for that simply than I was on vacation last week. So I was out of the country. I missed games. What did I miss? I missed games 3, 4, and 5 of the Celtics and the Heat series. Being in the Bahamas, I guess TNT didn't have the rights to broadcast those games down there. I was able to catch bits and pieces of the Lakers Nuggets series, but that was over relatively quickly. And I guess just to give like a quick overview on that, I am surprised at how easily Denver was able to get rid of the Lakers. How easily they took them, tied them into a pretzel, and then just fucking left them on the floor. It was insane. Jamal Murray is incredible. Nikola Jokic is looking like the best player in the NBA right now and probably should be the best player in the NBA heading into next season. I'm not necessarily surprised by Denver's dominance. I was a little skeptical around them at the beginning of the playoffs, but I did say that if Jamal Murray averaged 25 a night consistently, this team would be the representative of the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. I will say that the Lakers played a lot better than this sweep would indicate. There were just a couple of moments that got away from them that they weren't able to come back from. I mean, Jamal Murray had multiple 20-point quarters in that series, which was astonishing. And, at times the Lakers defense was rather lackadaisical. Their offense broke down. And I think that overall, the Denver Nuggets were too talented and, more importantly, had too much depth to for the Lakers to compete with. I know LA was noticeably without D'Angelo Russell for a majority of the series. Not that he was injured, but the fact that he was just ass. Jared Vanderbilt really didn't see as much time as he had in the previous series. Jared Vanderbilt averaged just 13 and a half minutes this series. D'Angelo Russell was at 23 and a half, but scored just 25 points in 4 games. And you look at LeBron and AD's numbers, they were doing everything that they needed to. LeBron was at 28, 9, and 10. AD was at 27, 14 with damn near 3 blocks. Austin Reeves gave them fantastic shooting as well, averaged more than 20 a game, shot upwards of 50% from three. Rui Hachimura was fantastic as well. There were a couple of instances early in the series where it looked like the Lakers would be able to put Hachimura on Jokic, because there were moments where Hachimura was actually kind of locking down Nikola Jokic, but ultimately Jokic got into a rhythm and just made Swiss cheese of this Lakers defense. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about the one thing that everybody wants to talk about now. If you've clicked on this video and you're still watching, you'll have noticed the fact that I most likely put Jaylen Brown in the title just for SEO purposes, really. And I don't want all of the blame to go on Jaylen Brown, even though he played like shit in Game 7, and even though he played like shit for a majority of the series. This was a tremendous letdown for a guy who was going into this offseason seeking a $300 million contract. And he acknowledged that. He said in the post-game press conference that this was a game in which his team needed him most. I'm sure you guys remember Jayson Tatum rolls his ankle pretty hard on the first play of the game and was nowhere near 100%. I think he was probably closer to like 45%. He couldn't move. He was grimacing every time he jumped off of either foot. He, didn't really want to come down from any layups or dunks. He was forced to guard Jimmy Butler at times and just couldn't stay in front of him. And that is a decision that I think Joe Mazzulla should be tried at The Hague for putting his injured superstar on Jimmy Butler, who was arguably the best player in this series. Just an overall collapse from Jalen Brunson. And I got to run through the box score because this is one of the all-time stinkers that an NBA player has ever put up, especially a player of Jalen Brunson's caliber, an all-NBA guy, a dude who averaged 25 a night during the regular season, gave you 19 points on 8 of 23 shooting, including 1 of 9 from 3. Also added 8 turnovers and 5 personals, just for good measure. Overall, had the second worst plus minus on the Celtics at a minus 17. It was an all around shitty performance from Jaylen Brown. He still can't dribble, apparently. I think like 5 of his 8 turnovers were either the ball getting poked away from him or him just straight up losing the handle. And they are absolutely beating his ass on social media. They went ahead. I say they, I don't know who actually did it first, but users on Twitter went ahead and found the video that the Celtics posted of Jaylen Brown doing pool workouts when he should have been on land dribbling a fucking basketball, because it is astonishing to have a perimeter player who cannot handle the rock in any degree. It looks so goofy watching Jaylen Brown try to string a 2-dribble combo move together. Someone online said that it's very reminiscent of Jason Richardson, a freak athlete. Jaylen Brown is a remarkable athlete, can basically jump over anybody in the league, but yet has like minimal skills as a perimeter player. He dribbles like George Muresan. He dribbles like he's 7'7" instead of 6'7". He sunk the Celtics on, what was it, Monday night, because when you're tasked with being the guy, you have to show up. Jayson Tatum was 5 of 13. Again, did not look like himself. Had 14 points. Jaylen Brown needed to be better. I don't want to harp on him too much because ultimately, at the end of the day, you'll win as a team and you die as a team. And even though Boston was able to come back and force the Game 7, they put themselves in a 3-0 hole. And they put themselves in a 3-0 hole because of their insistence on taking as many threes as possible, which has, been the style of play that has been popularized in the NBA recently. Basically, every contending team, except for the Miami Heat, relied heavily on the 3-ball, and there isn't anything inherently wrong with that. And Boston was a remarkably efficient team from the perimeter this year, which is largely why they finished second in the Eastern Conference, had the second most wins in the NBA. But there is a difference between taking 40 good threes and settling for 43s just to reach that 40% benchmark. Joe Mazzulla at one point in these playoffs said that he wants his guys to average 43s a night. And when you give them that total, when you stress that in your game plan, guys are going to be looking for threes first and foremost. And the threes that they look for are not necessarily going to be the best. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like, Boston shot 30% from 3 because all they took were bad threes. It was a mix. They took a lot of shitty shots. They also had a bunch of open shots that sometimes didn't fall, and that's bound to happen. But I am a little bit of a meathead in this regard. Like, my age is showing here. If I'm not shooting well from the perimeter, like if I'm Jayson Tatum and I'm 1 of 11 from 3, or I'm Jaylen Brown and I'm 1 of 9 from 3, I'm going to try to get to the cup. I'm going to play in the post. I'm going to get in the mid-range and try to just see the ball go through the basket. Jayson Tatum did this in Game 6. I think he had like 11 foul shots going into the half. This is what good scorers do. Now, all the other guys, I'm not expecting Marcus Smart to embrace this. I wasn't expecting Derek White to embrace this, but yet him and Caleb Martin had the fucking duel of the decade thus far. I'm not expecting Malcolm Brogdon to do this, but your star players need to be smarter. Your star players need to have a higher shot IQ. There's nothing wrong with disregarding your coach's game plan when you know you need to. I think from a coaching perspective, Erik Spoelstra showed us why He is arguably the best coach in the NBA and probably will go down as one of the best coaches of all time because he he makes adjustments mid-game unlike anyone else I've seen outside of like Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr. When Boston went on a run, like any run, Spo was quick to switch up the game plan defensively. He was very liberal with how he deployed his 2-3 zone or his 3-2 zone throughout this series. And it worked. It noticeably disrupted Boston's offense. And this is something that Steve Kerr would do throughout the dynasty. This is something that Greg Popovich would do throughout his time coaching, especially on defense, because when you have the collective talent that Miami has, Jimmy Butler, Bam. I mean, as shitty as Bam played offensively throughout the series, he was impactful on defense. When you have guys like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and Max Strus, not necessarily the best defenders, but guys who play with a lot of effort, guys who bring a lot of intensity. I mean, Haywood Highsmith in Game 7 brought valuable minutes to that team. When you have guys like that, you're able to deploy these kinds of wacky sets on defense that disrupt these otherwise super dynamic offenses. I didn't really see that from Boston throughout the series. In Game 7, there was one, I mean, not throughout the series, I'm sorry, throughout Game 7. There was this one stretch in the third quarter of Game 7 where Boston's defense looked like they were the fucking 85 Celtics. They were all over Miami, everywhere on the court. Jimmy Butler couldn't get into the paint. Bam Adebayo couldn't do anything. Caleb Martin was cooking, so there was really nothing they were going to do to disrupt him. But like Gabe Vincent couldn't get any shots off. Max Strus couldn't get any shots off. And that was when Boston they either trimmed the lead to single digits or they went ahead or they actually went ahead in the game. I don't think they ever took the lead at some point, but yeah, the third quarter, Miami shot 40% from the field. There was like, again, it was in the middle of the quarter that this run happened, but regardless, I don't understand why Boston was unable to put that intensity on display throughout the entirety of the game. It was just a very bizarre showing from them all around. And then still, like, I cannot get over how piss poor the entire team was from three. The Boston Celtics in the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals shot the basketball like they all had two left hands. We're gonna run down this list. Jayson Tatum, 23%. Jaylen Brown, 16%. Marcus Smart, 36%. That's actually better than what Marcus Smart has done historically. Al Horford, 27%. Malcolm Brogdon, 17%. Really, the only two guys that were high volume from three were Derek White and Marcus Smart. And Derek White was blistering, actually saved the Celtics. This is actually like saved the Celtics. Literally, forced Game 7 when he put back Marcus Smart's three with 0.1 seconds left. They were not going to win this series if they were not going to get consistent makes from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the perimeter. And it's kind of shocking that they were even able to force Game 7. One thing that we definitely cannot overlook is, Miami's resolve in Game 7, and they played fantastically. Caleb Martin is a dog. Jimmy Butler is, of course, Jimmy Butler. Bam was great on the boards, corralling as many of those Celtics bricks as he could. But let's not forget the fact that this team almost blew a 3-0 lead. They almost became the first team in NBA history to have a collapse of this magnitude. This is something that I think needs to be talked about more. And as much praise as I want to throw Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin and Erik Spoelstra, they should have never been in this position. They should have never had to go back to Boston for a Game 7. This series should have been over in Game 5, I think. It's very difficult to sweep a team like Boston. It's very difficult to sweep anybody in general, but this should have never happened. Although, with all of that said, Miami is a legitimate. I think they have a legitimate chance to beat Denver. I saw mad people on Twitter talking about Denver is gonna absolutely wipe the floor with whatever team comes out of the Eastern Conference, and I don't find that to be true. I think that Denver is better than Miami. I think that Denver is probably going to beat Miami in 6 or 7 games, but Miami has beaten Milwaukee and Boston, and both of those teams are as good, if not better, than Denver. I thought Milwaukee was statistically the best team in the NBA this year. Boston was arguably the second best team in the NBA this year. They both had more wins than Denver. I feel that Boston would have probably matched up better with Denver because they have their two stars. They're also extraordinarily deep. But Miami has all of the pieces to really kind of throw Denver for a loop. One thing I've noticed about this Miami Heat team, and really every Miami Heat team, is that they are exceptionally well coached in the sense that they don't make mistakes. They do not have lapses on defense. They very rarely make bonehead plays on offense. Everybody knows where they have to be every possession. Gabe Vincent knows, Max Strus knows, Duncan Robinson knows when he comes off the bench. Jimmy Butler, of course, is the orchestrator of all this. This kind of discipline is very difficult to beat, clearly, because you can't bet on them having a lapse. You can't bet on them like beating themselves. You cannot count on Miami to beat themselves. When you have a team that is clearly better than the other, oftentimes they will play down to the level of competition. And that sounds weird to say in the playoffs, but Miami does not. They do not have the makeup of a championship contender on paper. If you look at their regular season statistically, they should not be here. Jimmy Butler did not look like this in the regular season. This was like the 30th best offense in the league. This was like the 29th best, most efficient offense in the league. This was a team that shot like 34% from three. All of their major three-point shooters had a significant drop off, and they are without their best three-point shooter in Tyler Hero. How they got here is a testament to Erik Spoelstra, to Jimmy Butler's talent, of course, but also to all of the role players who understand their positions in Miami's scheme. I've spent the majority of this video just kind of bashing Boston, but I mean, they deserve it. They wholeheartedly deserve it. To put up a performance like this in Game 7 in front of your home fans is embarrassing. And I think it's a learning moment for all of the young players on this team because, after all, they're still young. I know they went to the finals last year, but the experience of Jimmy Butler, the experience of Erik Spoelstra, who's coached Dwayne Wade, who's coached LeBron, who's won 2 finals, who's been to what, like, this is going to be his sixth finals, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2020, 20 is it really his seventh fucking finals? Holy shit, that's insane. The edge in experience was palpable, especially considering the fact that Boston had a rookie head coach, but Miami did execute their game plan rather well, I feel like. I mean, they leaned on Caleb Martin a lot. They played through Caleb Martin for a majority of the game because he was cooking, and just seeing like the little adjustments that the individual players made throughout the series is really something. Like Jimmy Butler learning that when Robert Williams is guarding him, he cannot normally play off of 2 feet, you know, or he can't always try to get into the paint. He does have to settle for more mid-range shots when being guarded by all of that length. Just little things like that made the series, or just made Game 7 interesting. The quality minutes that Kyle Lowry gave them, as well as, a floor general, as a passer, as a facilitator. Him finding, there was one play where he was on the, I think Jimmy Butler was resting. So it was Kyle Lowry finds Duncan Robinson on a backdoor cut off of Al Horford. There was also another play they were running in semi-transition where Kyle Lowry has the ball at the top of the key. There's Gabe Vincent on the wing, Caleb Martin in the corner. Lowry fakes the pass to Vincent, which forces Vincent's man to close out to him, leaving Martin open in the corner for an uncontested three. Those little things, those, all of those years, all of those minutes, all of those possessions from Kyle Lowry, they add up. I mean, that's also another championship winner, Kyle Lowry. So, just a very, very solid performance from Miami in Game 7. They should, I think that they should give Caleb Martin a fucking statue, because if it were not for him, the Miami Heat would be the biggest joke in the NBA. I don't think that there would ever be a team that would usurp them as like the meme. We've made fun of the Golden State Warriors for blowing a 3-1 lead for 8 years now. 7 years, however many years it is. If Miami were to have lost 4 straight games, there would be no other punching bag. They would be the only punchline probably for the remainder of NBA history. And I think that just about covers it. Maybe I'll give my thoughts on the finals before they start. I don't really know. I think that Denver takes it. I think Denver takes it in 6 games. I would not be surprised, however, if Miami upset yet another dominant team. It's going to be difficult because they have not faced anybody like Jokic and Murray. And also, Murray and Jokic are in rhythm. They've played 3 series already. They absolutely dominated the Lakers. I mean, they would have had like a week off by the time the finals start, but I don't think that's going to phase them that much. I do think that this is going to be a very exciting finals. I think the narratives surrounding these finals as well are going to be incredible. I saw some hating ass motherfuckers on the timeline, some clown ass was like, this is the worst possible finals outcome. And yeah, if you look at it through that lens, every finals outcome that isn't LeBron Curry or Lakers Celtics is the worst possible finals outcome. But you have the Cinderella story of the Miami Heat, an 8 seed going to the finals for the first time since I don't fucking know when, going up against the most dominant team in the NBA right now, going up against the 2-time league MVP, arguably could have been a 3-time league MVP, who's playing some of the most incredible basketball we've ever seen, coming off of the heels of dominating LeBron James, and also has his fucking partner in crime, Jamal Murray, who gave 32 a night to this Lakers team. It's going to be an incredible finals. I'm very excited to watch the chess match between the coaches. I'm very excited to watch the individual matchups between all the players. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel as well. Leave a like on this video if you liked it. And I'll catch you on the next one.